Welcome to the Myths and Legends channel. Today we will delve into the world of the ancient Slavs, whose everyday life was deeply intertwined with their spiritual beliefs. Our ancestors revered bright gods, hoping for their blessings, luck, and protection of the family hearth. While the worship of the sun played a central role in the beliefs of the Slavs, dark forces were not overlooked. Among them, a special place was held by the Lord of the world of the dead and destruction. Today, we will talk about the mysterious and dark deity of Slavic mythology, Chernobog. He was also known by the names Black Serpent and Temnovit. This god, embodying destruction, was the ruler of Navi, the world of shadows and the realm of the dead. In Slavic mythology, Chernobog symbolized the force that brings destruction and chaos, the embodiment of the dark side of life and inevitable death. Chernobog in Slavic mythology is often associated with cold, destruction, death, negative energy, madness, and the embodiment of all kinds of evil. In the ancient pantheon of Slavic gods, his role was special. According to the dualistic understanding of the universe, where evil and good exist as equal and complementary forces, Chernobog symbolizes the dark side of being, the human soul, and all its vices. He is the main adversary of the bright gods and embodies the force that is in eternal struggle with good. However, despite his destructive nature, Chernobog is considered almost invincible, just like his bright counterpart Belobog. These two deities, like two sides of the same coin, balance the world. Some researchers do not see Chernobog as absolute evil. According to a philosophical approach, darkness is merely the absence of light, and evil is merely the absence of good. In this light, Chernobog appears not as an all-consuming evil, but as a necessary catalyst for the manifestation of bright forces, acting as a contrast without which the existence of good is impossible. Understanding the essence of good is impossible without recognizing the dark side. Chernobog, as the embodiment of darkness, not only tests the resilience and strength of the god spirit but also challenges people, putting them through the most difficult trials. He brings hardships, forcing individuals to experience the darkest periods of life. But it is in such moments that true courage, determination, and nobility are revealed. Chernobog was not a random mistake of the universe. His existence is meaningful. He performed a task that Belobog, his bright twin, did not undertake. Belobog, the god of light, was responsible for new beginnings, bringing joy and prosperity to people, aiding in affairs, granting health and success. In contrast, Chernobog sowed chaos and brought closure to that which had been prolonged. His role was not limited to spreading disease and poverty. He also helped people overcome difficult life circumstances and supported those who sought to comprehend secret knowledge and magical arts. Thus, Chernobog was an important element of balance in the world, facilitating the completion of processes and maintaining equilibrium. Chernobog occupies a special and unique place in the pantheon of Slavic gods. His image in mythology is surrounded by contradictions, evoking both fear and respect in people. Like other deities of the world of the dead Navi, Chernobog instilled fear, but at the same time, his power and influence deserved reverence. In some myths, he even aids the bright gods of Pravi in protecting humanity. Especially interesting are his relationships with his wife Marina, the goddess of winter and death. Chernobog often acts as the one who calms her tempestuous nature, balancing her willful character. Although he is impossible to defeat, Chernobog lives in every person, much like Rod, influencing people in different ways. Some struggle against his dark influence, trying to overcome the evil within themselves, while others accept his power and draw energy from this source for their accomplishments. There are many versions of Chernobog's origin, but there is still no consensus on how this powerful dark deity came to be. According to one legend, Chernobog had no parents in the way we understand. He arose spontaneously, born from the depths of the world of Navi, at the moment when Svarog was forging the universe in his heavenly forge. His essence was spawned from the shadows and echoes of the hidden desires of the first living beings. Chernobog absorbed the most brutal traits of humanity and the dark reflections of the god's light. His main goal is destruction and annihilation. He appeared as the inevitable opposite of light, which is why he hates sunlight. This is his main and perhaps only weakness. In another version, Chernobog, along with his brother Belobog, created Rod, the creator of all that exists. At the beginning of their journey, the brothers were inseparable, and Chernobog did not strive for darkness. However, over time, influenced by the treacherous slanders of Krivda, he succumbed to temptation and decided to subjugate the world by seizing power and plunging everything into darkness. Chernobog planned his attack in such a way as to avoid harming the human world. Taking the form of the great serpent, he led his dark armies against the airy gods. However, in this war he suffered defeat. Svarog, with the help of the Alatur stone, created a bright army that crushed the black serpent and his followers. After the victory, Svarog divided the world into two parts. Everything on the right side was righteous and came under the control of Belobog, while everything on the left side became Krivni and fell under the power of Chernobog. From that time on, Chernobog became the ruler of the world of Navi, the realm of the dead. The ancient Slavs depicted him in various forms, considering him a great shapeshifter. One of his images was the great serpent, who often battled with the bright gods. Chernobog could also transform into a black raven or a fierce wolf, symbolizing his connection to darkness and death. These images emphasized his power and ability to transform, embodying chaos and destruction. Chernobog is often portrayed as a middle-aged man clad in heavy armor. His face is contorted in a grimace of hatred and fury, and in his hands, he grips a spear ready to bring new woes and trials. However, his appearance is not always the same. In some depictions, he appears as an old man with a long beard and a deeply wrinkled face that instills horror. In other cases, Chernobog may appear as a young, handsome warrior, exuding energy and strength, symbolizing not only destruction but also the power of darkness that fills him. Chernobog possesses the ability to alter the flow of time both on a global scale, influencing the destinies of entire nations, and on the level of an individual's life. He can distort and twist time, bringing chaos and confusion into the existing order of things. This makes him not only the ruler of the world of the dead, but also a figure capable of influencing the laws of existence. References to Chernobog can be found in historical chronicles. For example, in one of the Slavic chronicles, an author named Helmold describes the tradition of the Slavs to pay tribute to this dark god during feasts, emphasizing his important place in ancient rituals and beliefs. During banquet rituals, the ancient Slavs would pass around a cup intended for sacrifices, reciting prayers over it. The meaning of these prayers was that good deeds were intended for the bright gods, while evil actions and unholy thoughts were directed towards the dark deities, primarily towards Chernobog. This ritual highlighted the division of the forces of good and evil in the Slavic worldview, where every action had its side bright or dark. The Misna Chronicle mentions that the Slavs believed in Chernobog as the ruler of the afterlife and the patron of the souls of the deceased. They prayed to him and offered sacrifices, seeking to appease him so that in the afterlife, the souls of the supplicants would avoid Chernobog's cruelty. He was considered the one who governed the fates of the dead, and in his hands lay the well-being of souls in the world of Navi. Chernobog was attributed all the disasters and misfortunes that befell humanity. Therefore, he was not only feared but also invoked for protection against impending troubles. Some ethnographic sources mention that the ancient Slavs depicted this deity as an elderly man with a long beard, underscoring his wisdom and experience in managing the world of the dead. Chernobog was often depicted with a crooked staff in one hand and a sickle in the other, symbolizing his connection to destruction and death. Human bones were depicted around his left leg, emphasizing his power over the world of the dead, while black crows were shown around his right, embodying the messengers of darkness. Just like his bright opponents, Chernobog had his children. Among them, the ancient Slavs named characters such as V, Aspid Gorin, and even Koshchei. However, there is an opinion that these children actually represented various incarnations of Chernobog himself, manifestations of his power in different forms. According to some beliefs, one of Chernobog's dimensions is the mirror world, a realm where everything happens in reverse. In our world, the right side is associated with righteousness and the left with evil and injustice. But in the mirror world, these concepts are swapped. Where we have righteousness, in that world, injustice reigns, and vice versa. Additionally, there is a legend that Chernobog has a special wheel that contains human souls, symbolizing his control over the destinies and life cycles of people. If Chernobog turns his mystical wheel to the right, a person faces a sinister fate. All troubles and misfortunes will befall them. But if the dark god turns the wheel to the left, the person's life will be long and prosperous, and they will avoid calamities. Like other Slavic gods, Chernobog has his own symbol that distinguishes him from the rest. The symbol of Chernobog is called the Navnik, and its name derives from the word Navi, related to the world of the dead. The outlines of this symbol vaguely resemble the skull of an animal, one of Chernobog's key attributes, indicating his connection to darkness and death. An inexperienced eye might confuse the Navnik with the symbol of Belobog. However, the sign of the bright god has a more intricate and elaborate pattern, while the symbol of Chernobog is more concise and grim. Upon closer examination of the symbol of Belobog, one can notice that its bright pattern consists of two dark signs. This underscores the close connection between Belobog and Chernobog as twin brothers, opposites that complement each other. Initially, the symbol of Chernobog, known as the Navnik, was used exclusively in rituals related to the deceased. It was applied to the clothing of the dead or on tombstones, believing that this sign helped the soul not to get lost in the world of the dead and to find its way to its final destination. Over time, the symbol acquired a new meaning. The Slavs began to notice that the Navnik fostered the development of magical abilities, and it came to be worn by sorcerers, witches, and anyone seeking to master the magical arts. Chernobog, as the patron of dark forces and magic, embodied everything associated with the color black. He was attributed with black horses, birds like crows and kites, as well as black stones, which were believed to be connected to his energy. Like other gods, Chernobog has his symbolic plants. The Slavs associated such trees as beech, walnut, and elderberry with the Dark Lord. In some traditions, fir and ash were also considered his attributes. Amulets and talismans were made from these trees, as well as from herbs associated with Chernobog. It was believed that such amulets granted the owner protection and the patronage of the Dark Lord. Worship of Chernobog occurred several times a year. On these days, those who revered him as their patron sought his counsel and expressed gratitude for the blessings received. Chernobog's day fell on February 29th, and in ancient times, Monday was also considered his day. On this day, it was believed to be unfavorable to start new ventures, so it was often used for conducting court sessions and public executions. Monday was a time when the world stood on the brink of darkness and justice, obeying the will of the dark god. Chernobog was offered not only animals but also captive slaves, who were considered worthy offerings for the dark deity. Shrines dedicated to Chernobog were built either from black stone or from ordinary stone that was then painted black. In the center of the shrine stood an idol of the god, crafted in dark tones, sometimes with silvered mustaches, symbolizing his authoritative and grim nature. In front of the idol stood an altar, which was often covered with the dried blood of sacrifices. It almost always had a red hue. The shrines were surrounded by walls made of stakes, upon which the skulls of sacrificed animals and humans were strung, emphasizing the power and majesty of Chernobog. One of the important days for worshipping Chernobog was April 14th, the day of honoring the black raven, a symbol of the god. However, the most significant date was the night of December 21st to 22, the longest night of the year, which the ancient Slavs referred to as the Night of Chernobog, considering it a time of his greatest power. Chernobog embodies not only destructive forces and human vices, but also the inner struggle that helps a person develop. By going through trials, sorrows, and hardships, people gain strength, resourcefulness, and uncover their hidden talents. It is through the destruction of the old that space is created for the birth of something new. In ancient cultures, death was often perceived as a continuation of life rather than its end. Today, however, death is viewed as an inevitable and irreversible conclusion. Because of this, Chernobog, who in Slavic mythology was not only the god of destruction and chaos, but also the ruler of the world of the dead, and the patron of magicians, has gradually come to be seen as a villain. His image transformed from a classical antagonist into a symbol of evil, even though his role in the cycle of life and death was much deeper and more complex. This concludes today's story. Thank you for watching the video until the end. I remind you that the best way to support the channel is to like and leave a comment. See you again on the Myths and Legends channel. Goodbye.